And welcome back to another episode of the Grip and Ripper Sports Podcast with Stock and Tops. I'm Danny Tops. We got Chris Stockwell here with us today.
Hello.
And today, a very special guest of mine, Ramon Montez. He is my future brother-in-law.
Yes.
He wanted to come on and talk some NBA with us. Ramon, say hello and let the fans know a little bit about yourself.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, man.
Day after Game 6, so we got a lot to talk about. But,
Yes, we do.
My name's Ramon. Danny, future family, already family member.
We like
He's
bringing
awesome guy.
family to the table.
Indeed, we do.
Definitely.
We're a family show. Show us to your kids.
Forever.
But, all right, Ramon, so, let the fans know a little bit about you. What do you do? What are your homerisms for sports and whatnot,
Yeah, I mean, I was born in the Bay Area, Fremont, but we moved here when I was like 4 or 5. But I would always spend my summers back in the Bay, so that's where a lot of my teams come from. When I was a little kid, my dad used to take me to the A's games and watch Jose Canseco.
Awesome.
That's kind of where it started, even though I don't follow baseball all that much as the NBA. But I still follow the A's. That would be my baseball team. And then we also grew up watching Joe Montana and the 49ers.
Really?
Glory years, right?
So are you going to be a Raiders fan?
I don't know yet.
Because that's, you don't know yet.
Don't do it.
Well, we're not.
Don't do it.
I don't hate the Raiders. The Raiders are actually my brother's team, which is funny. We
Blake likes
split
the
up.
Raiders?
Blake,
Oh, wow.
likes the Raiders. I like the Niners because
You
my
gotta
mom
be-
used to be a nurse at Stanford Hospital, and so she used to work with some of the Niners, and of course we grew up at that time. So still a Niners fan. I don't know about the Raiders. I have to see when they come here. The practice facility is going right down the street from my house, which is pretty cool.
Where's that?
Over there in Henderson. So they're building the whole office there, and then an indoor stadium right attached to it.
Yeah,
so.
if you're
Wow.
driving down St. Rose right now, it's ginormous. You won't miss it.
Right
Yeah,
across
I'm
the
I'm
street
sure.
from Executive Airport.
Because
So,
they're doing a lot of work over there on that side of town right now, man. They're building a whole bunch of stuff. It's
It's
crazy.
very cool. So NBA?
and then NBA Golden State Warriors, of course. I remember.
And that's been long standing.
I mean, it's been long standing. So my favorite team as a little kid, like elementary school, was every other kid in the mid '90s, and that was Muggsy Bogues, right? So Charlotte Hornets were the coolest team as a kid in elementary school, and that's when I started probably getting in the NBA and NBA Jam.
Oh, boom, shakalaka.
Oh yeah, just like hitting threes with Chris Smalling all day.
My man. He gets it, man.
Yeah. He gets
But
it.
no, so my favorite team was the Charlotte Hornets. I wasn't like watching games all that much. I was like, NBA was cool. The Raptors and Grizzlies came. Remember that? And like Toronto took off
changed the
of
whole thing.
Jurassic Park, right? 'Cause it
Vancouver
was-
Grizzlies.
Yep, because the Raptors were super popular. And then Muggsy Bogues got traded, and he ended up on the Warriors, which I thought was cool because I'd always spend my summers in California with my cousins, like playing tennis all summer at tennis camp, and then. So that's when my cousins kind of followed the Warriors, and then Muggsy Bogues came. I was like, oh, cool. Like,
I
this
know
is
this
our
guy. I know this
hometown.
guy, yeah.
This is our hometown team. Started kind of following it, and then in high school is when I started becoming like a big NBA fan. LeBron getting drafted, and even before that, like the Kobe and Tim Duncan years, and the super fast-paced Suns. Like those were like the things that I started out with. Kevin Garnett just being a beast, leading the Wolves in every stat category. So
We grew up in like the best era.
We did.
Like the
It
best
was.
era of the NBA. Mm-hmm. It was back, and the legends that we got to see all the way through that are now ending, like tier 1 level players. Awesome.
yeah, we still got Vince Carter in there. He's still repping for us.
He was playing before I was born, practically, Vince Carter.
Someone was mad that he's still collecting a check.
Who?
Paul Pierce, I think.
Well, that's because Paul Pierce can't play no more. And he was wrong about every goddamn prediction he made in the finals, in the semifinals, in the divisional finals, and everything.
We got the one that counted, though.
Did he have? Oh, he did say Raptors, didn't he?
Yeah, so that hurts, too.
Last night before the game, Tracy McGrady and Vince Carter both had the Raptors in that game also.
Well, you gotta hope that they would.
Yeah. Well, they played there too.
That's a whole separate tangent that we can go down about what would Toronto have been had T-Mac not left.
I think that we should come back to that. I think that we should do our due diligence and see what the actual scenario was between whether he got traded or whether he left via free agency, because I don't know.
It was a trade.
Was it?
Yeah. He went to Orlando, but I thought he requested the trade. He didn't want to be in Toronto anymore. Because
don't know.
technically, him and Vince are cousins, I believe.
Yeah,
not,
Vince,
not technically. They actually
They
are,
are,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And the whole Vince thing ended really ugly. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of like, did that influence McGrady as well?
Was he there post Vince? I don't think so.
have to go
He was
back
gone
and
first,
look.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tracy was gone 1st. Yeah. Because Vince was still, I mean, the Raptors were still pretty good for, like I said, what, a year or two after McGrady left.
They
And
had-
then that's really when they fell off.
They had Hakeem Olajuwon on the team
Yeah. An
for
old-ass
like a
Elijah
year
one.
there.
Stopover.
All
But,
right,
so-
yeah, go ahead, Dan.
So obviously, not a bandwagon fan. I know that a lot of people out there over the last 5 or 6 years have really jumped onto the Warriors train.
He can actually
happens, I
name
guess.
players on
Yeah.
that eighth.
He knows-
on that eighth seed Golden State team.
Oh, man. Oh, Michael Petrus.
Yep.
Oh, Monta, of course. Captain Jack.
See, there you go. That's how you know
He
it's a
did.
real fan.
Captain Jack.
Matt Barnes. Beatrians had some big games before he forgot to learn how to shoot a free throw.
Hey, those were fun NBA 2K teams to play with, though.
Yeah.
That Monte and Steph combo in the backcourt was
Yeah. Azubuike.
nasty.
Anthony Rudolph. Troy Murphy. Whew.
They had a lot of
Those are the
guys.
days.
Yeah.
But so real quick, we're gonna obviously perfect segue into Game 6. I texted Ramon to when we needed a guest for this week, saying like, man, I really hope that the Warriors can win Game 6 so that we can get a Game 7. Obviously, it's a little bit more of a damper that the Warriors lost, so the Raptors are the NBA champions, obviously. But it gave us a lot of stuff to talk about. But before we get into that, we did want to hit 2 points. First one being, if you're an NHL fan, congrats to the St. Louis Blues on
They
their
won
first
their
ever.
first, yeah.
Their first ever.
championship.
Which goes on. So we have 2 first evers this year now with the Raptors and the St. Louis Blues.
They were flipping cars in St. Louis.
Dude, they're going wild.
And wasn't
going
it? They
nuts.
were also like like VGK in that St. Louis Blues went to the finals in their first year.
Did
Their
they?
debut.
Way back.
Yeah, I thought that was a stat too. Like that's what we had in common.
Can we get a fact check on that?
But now,
We'll check.
but now. So if that's true, that's awesome because now the city can
And-
celebrate.
And also, congrats to whoever the person was that put in the ticket at the Paris that had the Blues at 250 to 1 back in January to win the Stanley Cup. Put $400 on it.
Hopefully he didn't hedge.
Even if he did hedge a little bit, just like hedged your $400, you know, like win 1,000.
yeah,
But I mean, 100 grand. Big props to you, bro. That's huge. Then secondly, rest in peace, Pat Bolin, the owner of the Broncos.
Yep.
He died last night, I believe. I didn't look too much into it. I just seen it, so I don't know if it was just, natural causes or if it was something else. But
Yeah. He's 75. I don't know too much about it. Excuse me, too much either. I know that T.O. sent out a big a big apology. Yeah, T.O.'s a big.
but so condolences to his family. Obviously, big loss for the Broncos organization. But I'm not a huge Broncos fan, but he's done a fantastic job.
The Blues did make it to the finals.
Their first year.
their first year.
First year, they were swept though in the finals.
Okay, so they made it their first year and then won. Wow, that's crazy.
The Blues kind of became a pseudo fan favorite of Vegas Knights fans here
They did because
Yeah.
they beat the fucking Sharks.
because they beat the Sharks and Perone was on the team as well.
Yeah, happy for
I
Perone
know
for
a
sure.
lot of Knights fans were rooting for the Blues.
I was rooting for him. I
Me-
wanted to see him win.
as well. Yeah,
But yeah,
I like seeing Portnoy freak out. So
that was great too. El Presidente got the old big L on that one.
One bite.
Everybody knows the rules. But so yeah, condolences to Pat Bolin's family. Yeah, obviously the Broncos organization's always been a fantastic organization. Class acts have always had put out good teams. A lot of great players have come from the Broncos organization. So he'll be sadly missed, and I'm sure that there'll be great celebrations week 1 for Pat Bolin in Denver. Moving on though, Game 6, hell of a game.
yeah,
I enjoyed it. I really did.
Yeah, it was exciting. I mean, I don't care what side you were taking. It was an exciting game. I hadn't been wearing usually I don't wear jerseys during a game, but for Game 5, I was with Luna. I was like, let me go throw on my Curry jersey. So I threw that one on. I usually wear my Thompson, but I threw that one on. They squeaked through and won Game 5 in Toronto.
you had to double back.
Yeah, so for this game, I put it on mid-first quarter like I did last time. Same Curry jersey.
Superstitious.
Got to do it.
Yep.
Yeah, but I had to go to my uncle's house for a birthday, so I was actually listening on the radio, watching on TV, listening on the radio back, and then finishing it on the TV. So I got to spend time with my brother, my uncle, so they're big Warriors fans. But yeah, it was brutal. But But it wasn't as painful as when LeBron and Kyrie came back 3-1. This was like a different feeling, just because with the injuries for one. But then Clay goes down like that. That was devastating to me because he's been my favorite player on the Warriors for a long time.
They really did. They did. They threw out their best effort that they could. They just were so depleted.
They were, but the game was good from both sides. Like it was a great game in that everyone on the Raptors, everyone on the Warriors, despite the circumstances that got them there, like they just took this game and people were diving for balls. I thought we saw really good effort on both sides. And
I agree.
as an NBA fan in general, that's what you want.
You can't ask for a better. Not having a specific side and just watching it as a fan, it was a great NBA Finals.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So sad to see those injuries.
The injuries are a killer.
And it did come out last night that Clay did suffer an ACL on that. It looked like a dislocation. That's what we talked about.
I thought at first he hyperextended.
Yeah, a little hyperextension.
'Cause he
Went
can't-
sideways a little bit.
Yeah, he ran back out, hit the free throws, and then went to the locker room. I thought, okay, if it's
Yeah,
hyperextended and they can squeak out the win here, maybe. And obviously the bad news broke.
Yeah, that's no good. So we're going to see, 9 months minimum.
That's
Yeah.
what they're
The
saying. 9 to
only
10
person
months.
that's come back faster than that is Adrian Peterson.
And then ran for 2,000 yards.
Yeah, but I don't, he's in a situation where he's probably going to re-up now. And,
Yeah.
and then we'll dive into that in a little bit.
Yeah.
But, he's looking at the same situation. Earlier than Durant, he'll be back before
Yeah,
Durant.
Durant's injury is going to be longer.
And I expect to see both of them still on the Warriors next year at this point. But he's in a situation where he doesn't have to rush back.
No.
And not at all.
No.
And we'll see how these teams' rosters fill out as we move forward. But he'll take his time coming back, and Steph will just kind of do Steph things.
And it's like you said, we're going to get into that stuff a little bit more here in a couple minutes. It's just going back to the game. When Clay went down, we were watching the game, and like you said, we thought it was hyperextension, and he went down with 3 minutes left in the third, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And
towards the end.
I just thought to myself, I hope that Golden State could squeak out this win here if Clay's gone. And they put up a fight. Like you said, great finals. I thought Game 5 and Game 6 were both fantastic games.
It was must-see TV.
Oh, God, they were, I know the ratings were down this year, and, a lot of people say this because of no LeBron, and that makes a lot of sense. But, man, if you're an NBA fan,
If you're
you didn't
watching
watch
for basketball,
like
that was top.
it was great
very
games.
good basketball.
It was back and forth. It was always. I don't think when Clay went down, I don't think the lead went anywhere outside of maybe 5 points one way.
No, he
and
was keeping him in.
Yeah.
He was being Game 6 Clay as usual. That was what made it even more devastating.
He was having a great game.
Yeah.
He was. I think it was like 8 for 10 shooting or something. Like he was shooting fantastic. He was shooting the lights out.
And he had finally gotten to the point where it was like, okay, he's beyond that hamstring thing. Like,
Yeah.
everything's like,
looked
oh,
good.
He was just letting it fly. He was confident. Like he was keeping them in, and
devastating blow.
yeah. But going back to the game, the Warriors still had a chance to win it.
They
They were
stayed in
keeping
it.
it close.
They stayed in it.
A little too many turnovers. That's always their Achilles heel. Sorry, KD. But that is
Well
been their
done.
Achilles heel during
Well
they
done.
push the ball, they run fast breaks, and Draymond thinks he's Magic Johnson sometimes. So that's what happens there.
Yeah, he does.
But
Does some stupid
missed.
shit.
They also missed.
This is why I like good insight from people that know, dude.
Their team, it's just.
Damn it, it's so good.
Yeah, but they also miss more free throws than they should have.
Yeah.
Iggy at the line, you never know what you're gonna get.
Yeah, he's shooting
And
he's all over the place.
Boogie.
Boogie missed 3, I think, towards the end there, and then Draymond should have been more clutch in his threes. I know he's usually around a low.
He
70s
did hit
shooter.
that big 3 though with a minute and a half left.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was big.
Yeah, but then he also had.
But then he had the
a
fuck up.
key turnover.
Yes, he did.
Which he did get fouled, but then he tried to swing the arms and lost control of the ball, and they could have gone up 4 right there.
No,
If they would have got a
bucket or
yeah,
shot
they
some
could have
free
been
throws.
up 4 at that point. and that
The,
would have
announce,
changed
the
their
announcers
pressure.
mentioned that he shouldn't have complained and should have got back on defense. Would him of getting back on defense have affected that transitional play going back down the court?
No, I think at
I don't
that
think so
point the
either.
turnover was bigger, and by the time the ball got there, I don't see it. You only got basically it would have been a 3-on-4
Yeah.
fast break.
Even if he
right?
gets back, I don't know how much he's
If he
chasing
gets
that play,
back.
dude. It's-
Yeah, and the Raptors usually don't rush it anyway. They're good in the half court set, so I don't see. Draymond would have gotten there in time, and they would have been at half court, and it's business as usual.
The play that they drew up, to get the ball, the inbound with 9 seconds left?
I thought it was terrible.
You didn't
if
like
you're
it?
asking my personal opinion on it, I thought that was a terrible drop.
Oh.
I thought that to throw the back shoulder fade across the court to try to get Curry open, I'm like, that was. I guess the question I asked myself was, that's the best play you're able to draw up in that situation? I mean, it ended up working out. I mean, Steph got a shot.
Bro,
I just thought they could have done better.
We talked about this before. When you don't have multiple shooters on the floor,
Well, and I was
you
actually gonna
have
get into
no
that.
have no spacing, and I think that I'm the exact opposite. I think it was a great play. It's the only way they could have gotten him open, man. He got a wide open look. What more do you want?
I can't. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I know
argue.
when he came around that screen, did you think that shot was going in?
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I mean,
so
they
did
were,
I.
they were saying that's like a classic Brad Stevens play. When
Yep.
he threw it, I was like, oh shit, it's gonna go out of bounds.
That's what
like,
I
it
thought.
was pretty
Initially,
risky.
so it was like,
Yeah.
but it worked.
It did.
Aside from it not going in,
Yeah, I mean, Toronto had good man coverage, so it almost looked like, well,
which is right there.
maybe Kerr was like, okay, they're gonna be on us, on our ass here, and so run this play. If it gets tough, Draymond grab it. I think it was just slightly a bad pass. Draymond came through, but yeah, I thought that shot was going in. I thought it was a good look.
It was definitely a good look. I guess the reason I didn't like it so much was because I had the initial reaction that you had was I thought that pass was going out of bounds.
Right.
And I think I don't know who it was on that opposite side that grabbed it.
Draymond.
Was it
Yeah,
Draymond?
Iggy inbounded Dray.
He did a fantastic job of corralling that ball, and as he was kind of like falling out of bounds, was able to get it to Steph. I just think that the play was so broken, or at least it seemed like it live, that granted, yeah, Steph did get a decent look at the basket. It just wasn't clean. And I think that made a difference.
Yeah,
Personally.
I mean, the other thing that you can do is you can try to run a screen and inbound to Steph and let him, with 9 seconds, go against a Draymond pick and roll.
And that's what I thought was going to happen. Get it to Steph. Let it get it into his hands.
But even then, you know what's going to happen. As soon as Steph gets that and that screen set, they're going to double. So that
You're
ball's
right.
coming out of his hands. But you know,
You get someone open, a wide open shot in that
Only
situation.
needing a 2. That might have been a little bit better way to go.
Yeah, I definitely think so. He could have got broken free, and he's got a great shooter anywhere on the court. But I wasn't unhappy with the play just because he got a good look at it. I know it started broken.
It got a good look, and I can't complain about that.
Yeah, he
But-
just
Still,
make
it
the
was still
shot.
executed aside from the shot not going.
Yeah.
It was,
And the point that I was going to bring up too was, like when we talked about the Warriors played well from the Clay injury on. It was the same thing that plagued them the entire series, and it was lack of depth. Like you've been mentioning this on every episode that we've done.
Since the Western
It's the lack of depth and the lack of perimeter shooting. Once they finally went down, they would go 1 point lead to 3 points to 1 point to 4 points, right? Once the Warriors finally went down, there were some key mistakes that they made. They just the shots didn't go in. They didn't have the shooting. It became the Steph show, right? And then Draymond had that big shot, but outside of that,
That's what it has
and then
to
you said
be.
they went to the box and won again.
And Toronto went to that box and won. And the dude, with no other spacing, no other shooters on the court, you run into problems. We run into it all the time. You got to have 2 or 3. You got to have 2 or 3 out there to really keep the rest of the defense honest. They want Quinn Cook. They want McKinney, right? Mm-hmm. They want him. They want the ball in Looney's hands.
Yeah.
Right.
You're going to win the game if you get the ball in their hands.
And Fred VanVleet did a phenomenal job
Beautiful segue.
against
Yeah.
Steph Curry. He is a dog. He harassed him.
Mm-hmm.
He took that challenge and executed to the best of his ability and brought it every night and was, Dan, a dark horse. I was thinking a dark horse to be the MVP.
In my mind, now
Dark-
I
obviously
know,
Kawhi won that.
Well,
MVP.
I
he,
know
he
you-
did get one vote.
Did he?
Did he
got
really?
one
He
vote.
deserved
Yeah.
that. He
good.
deserved
it
that
wasn't,
vote.
it wasn't unanimous. He got
deserved.
one vote.
He deserved that
He
vote.
deserved it. And, in my mind, Fred VanVleet, and I'll admit there's a little bit of bias in there because I went to school in Wichita for 3 years. And, Wichita being a podunk little shit town of 300,000, I wasn't looking forward to going to it. But I got to say, I was in Wichita during the best years you could have been in Wichita because Wichita State was good when they had Fred VanVleet and Ron Baker and Clay Anthony Early, I think his name was. And they were ballers, right? And I've always rooted for those guys because at Wichita State, I'll say, is actually one of my more favorite college basketball teams. So I always root for those guys. And last night, in my mind, I knew he wouldn't win it because you're not going to not give it to Kawhi. You can't.
Yeah.
You can't give it to somebody else. But man, Fred VanVleet, if he would have gotten it, I couldn't have argued with it. He would have deserved it in that instance. Man, he played so well the entire finals.
Yeah, and he had 12 points in the fourth quarter there
He kept the Raptors in it in the fourth.
And you can look at the numbers and say anything you want about the numbers. I think he was like 5 of 11 from 3, but at the same the same token, he hit big shots down the stretch of all of the games, and he harassed Steph Curry.
He did.
For a whole series.
Yeah, he came through in the clutch for them, hit so many big threes, and he was coming off a series where against the Bucks, people were questioning whether he should even start, or they were giving Nick Nurse a hard time because he was having like really terrible games against the Bucks. Becomes a dad. His wife gives birth to a baby. He becomes Fred VanVleet Sr., and that's when he started just hitting threes like crazy. And then he never took his foot off the pedal.
Yeah, no, he didn't.
So I can as a dad of Luna, who's almost 1, I understand it.
Yeah, I
you get
believe
some little extra mojo magic, and then so I should try shooting a basketball.
Get you to an open tryout
Yeah,
or
like
something.
see how my 3-point shooting is. So,
I
I
heard
think
the
we're
Warriors-
I think we're almost the
I
same
heard
height.
they need one in Golden State.
Yeah, the Warriors
Yeah.
need some 3-point
We
shooting
need
right
a
now.
few, but I think we're almost the same height too. He's not that tall, so
And
the same vertical.
And it's a great story too, man. Undrafted out of Wichita State, always told that he was too small, not athletic enough. I believe he's from Illinois, so he's from my home state as well.
Well, you just oozed Fred VanVleet.
I was a big Fred VanVleet fan, and partially because me and JD made a lot of money on betting on them in that NCAA March Madness tournament back. Was it 13 when they played Louisville and lost? I think that was the year. Made a lot of money. They were underdogs every single game, and we bet them heavy every single game. So always been a big fan of his. Great story. Glad that he got a ring. Congratulations on. He said it was a daughter.
Yeah.
So congratulations on your baby girl, Fred, if you're watching. But now the question begs, we've been focusing on Golden State. Let's look at the Raptors a little bit. And the first question,
That's a quality group of guys, man.
it really is. It's a great,
Yeah.
it's a fantastically assembled squad.
1 through 10 is super solid.
So the first question I want to ask, and this is going to be the question that I think every sports talk show is going to be talking about today and for the rest of the week, is Kawhi Leonard staying in Toronto? Kawhi Leonard,
Yeah.
champion
2 times.
two times NBA Finals MVP, 2-time Defensive Player of the Year. I think a 3 or 4 or 5-time All-Star now. Is he staying in Toronto?
You missed one stat.
Which was the one that I missed?
2 times he's ended 3-peats.
Yeah, that's right. He's
Dynasties.
2 dynasties that he's destroyed.
3 dynasties.
3 dynasties.
You're forgetting the third. What's the third dynasty?
The Spurs.
Yes.
He did end the Spurs dynasty.
Did them dirty.
Yes, producer?
Players in NBA history to be Finals MVP for 2 different teams.
Oh yeah, no, they're 2 really big players. One's Magic Johnson.
Career Laker.
You said how many players?
It's Kareem.
Kareem.
It's LeBron.
Kareem and
That's it.
LeBron. Yeah.
So Kareem with the
Jeez.
Bucks and wow,
No, Kawhi.
Lakers, Heat, Cavs, Raptors, Spurs.
damn, great company to be in. But that begs the question: for the entire year since the trade happened, and DeMar DeRozan feels real bad.
Poor
Feels
guy.
real bad. They've been talking about this is a one and done. It's a layaway. It's a lease, whatever you want to call it. Kawhi Leonard not going to be in Toronto after the season. Is he staying or is he going?
I think it's hard to pass up free transportation, free food, and free places to live for the rest of your life.
A free condo, yeah, right.
Free
It's
$1
like-
million condo.
That being said, he's big time, dude. He can go anywhere he wants. He doesn't have to prove anything to anybody. He's in
No.
the same discussion LeBron was in last free agency with where he can go. It doesn't matter, man. He can go anywhere. He can go anywhere and play anywhere he wants to. And I think that leads to him going home. Now, this whole time it's been the Clippers, but I was talking, I mentioned it to you earlier. I think that he's the only guy now that it doesn't matter that, like, to his legacy. It doesn't matter to his legacy that he can go play with LeBron
Yeah,
either.
no.
So, if he wants to go to LA, I think the Lakers would welcome him with open arms if he wanted to do that. Now, but all we've been hearing is the Clippers this whole time because he doesn't want to be in LeBron's shadow. But this is Kawhi's shadow now.
Yeah.
he's easily in the top 3 or 4 players in the whole NBA.
Oh, easily. Easily.
Yeah, and that's a question we're going to get to here first, so I don't want to hit that too soon. But your point is fantastic. I agree. he has proven it's like the KD thing, right? KD wasn't able to win one in OKC. He lost the finals to LeBron and the Heat, and then he went and joined the Warriors, right? And he got a bunch of flack for that, rightfully so. In my mind, it's the biggest low ball move of all time.
Snake.
Yeah, Kawhi does not have that stigma at all. It will not ruin his legacy if he went to go play with LeBron. If personally, at this moment in time, I think Kawhi Leonard is better than LeBron. Now, I know that there's some people that are going to hate that I say that. I'm keeping in mind just the statistics around Kawhi Leonard's last few full years.
But
right?
at the end of the day,
and I
go
don't
ahead,
think it
sorry,
will. I'm just saying it. I don't think it will hurt him going to play with LeBron because I don't think people will be looking at it as, Kawhi Leonard's going to play with LeBron because he needs a ring, and I don't think people will look at it either saying that LeBron's trying to recruit Kawhi to win a ring. Because I don't think anybody judges either of those two by their abilities. Because I think they're right there, and that's why I say I think Kawhi Leonard is literally, if not above LeBron, I think he's even keel.
Can they coexist?
I think so.
I think so too. And with that environment, Kawhi has just shown what he can do with Toronto, right? Without with DeRozan leaving, but you just see the impact he has on defense and offense. And I think, like you said, it doesn't matter where he goes. I think he can, with a serviceable enough team, he can get them deep. Which is what makes the Clippers so intriguing, right? With such a year they have so many assets, they have so much cap flexibility.
They already gave Golden State a run for their money this year.
Yeah, they did, and they
it
have
was
good rookie development. They have Jerry West, right? So they now have Jerry West consulting. Jerry West helped make the Warriors who they are. So now he's working with the Clippers still. They have a better owner than that other racist Donald Sterling guy or whatever.
The dude that's there now, Ballmer, he's the head of Microsoft.
Something like that. He's a tech guy.
Yeah, he was like the number 2 behind Bill Gates for a long time. I think he still has shares in it, but he's
obviously
kind of away
now
from
just owning the Clippers. Who would want to go to work at Microsoft when you can go to work?
Yeah, I mean,
for the Clippers.
But he's another one of those kind of like Mark Cuban guys who. He spent the record on buying an NBA team, I think over $2 billion. So that inflated the NBA worth. But that would be intriguing too. I mean, the Clippers have been a laughingstock for a long time, and Kawhi could go there, win, and be the face of the franchise for a long or forever to bring a championship.
Yeah, if you bring a championship to the Clippers, you're going down and
and he just did it with
infamy.
Toronto. He brought Toronto's first. So
what does the rest of that Clippers roster look like?
I'd have to look it up. But that's the thing about
they
them.
got the 2 rookies at 1 and 2, so Landry Shamet and I can't even remember, Skal Alexander. And then they have Gallinari, who played pretty good because he was pretty healthy, and Montrezl Harrell at center, who's been pretty feisty. He had good years at Houston, played solid there. But they also just have a ton of cap flexibility.
Yep.
Yeah, they got a lot of money
the
they
bottom
can spend.
3, in terms of flexibility, they have picks, so they have a lot of assets they can work with.
And Lou Will.
That's
he's always on my fantasy team every year. Love Lou Will.
Needs to be.
He was
The six man.
Yeah, I think he had one of the best 6-man
Careers.
seasons of all time. So
Did he win it again this year? Or with the awards?
the awards, nobody cares now because they're into the season. So I think he'll definitely win 6-man. But as for me, it being just fun about it, I think he should go to the Clippers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. It'll open up the door for a different type of free agent to go to the Lakers anyways.
That's true.
That's kind of what we've always thought
And that
about.
makes that so intriguing.
And I think that going back to your point, if he did go to the Lakers, which I don't think is going to happen, I do think that him and LeBron would be able to coexist perfectly, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah,
I think
I agree with that.
Yeah, because
That'd be-
Kawhi doesn't need the ball in his hands.
No. He can play off ball.
We've
He's
seen
going to
it
play
with
defense.
the Spurs. He excels in that other position
Yeah.
where he's setting screens and rolling.
Oh, God, that just
and
think
then
about it,
open,
though.
hitting open shots and knockdown shooter, man.
That's a
But
hell
he
of
can
a tandem.
create too, and he can create
Yeah.
as well, and that's the dangerous thing about him.
Hell of a tandem.
And Kevin Durant got in flack because he had that quote about KD. He called Kawhi a system player. And I think a lot of people, he got some of that critic, he's part of the Spurs system. That's why he's flourishing.
I don't think KD feels that way today.
No.
I know. He feels he's on a lot of things right now in that New York hospital recovering. But that was the other thing about Kawhi. That's because I had friends and stuff asking, how do you feel about facing Toronto? That's better than the Bucks, right? This was before we knew like what Toronto really was. But I told him what scared me was two things. One, that he's ended 3-peats before, and two was just coming full circle, going back to that finals when Zaza stepped under him, injured him, and that basically created the whole mess with leaving the Spurs. And now it's like poetic justice. He comes back fully recovered on a new team, and he beats the Warriors.
The only
like,
thing
that
they're missing,
scared me.
The only thing they're missing is having Zaza out there.
Yeah. I mean, that's what scared me before. I was like, watch, it's going to.
That was my
You know,
biggest
one of
point
those
leading up
superstitions.
to the finals. I had the Raptors in 7, and it was strictly based on not having Durant.
Yeah.
I was a firm believer in the Achilles being a thing the whole time.
Yeah, we've been saying that for a while.
And then the payback. I think that when guys are motivated on payback grounds, like they come with a different level of intensity, and that's the reason I picked the Raptors because of the Zaza injury previously.
Yeah, and it also, Toronto was a better team in the regular season than Golden State, and that was with Kawhi missing, with load management, not playing any back-to-back. So he missed how many games? And
Yeah, but the Warriors were going to freelance through the NBA
and
season.
there's
That's the
that
whole
too.
thing.
Yeah,
It's
but there's also that. So
if they hadn't won a ship before, they would have
Yeah.
they would have blown through the season
Yeah.
like super easy.
But
They-
we talked about, you touched upon it, some of the problems that came out, that surfaced in the finals, lack of depth. That's
Lack
like
of
what
spacing.
and then turnovers as usual.
turnovers was the big one. You
Yeah.
can't make up for the lack of depth and lack of spacing
No.
if you
And
turn
you
the
know
ball
what?
over too
Yep.
much.
And I'll be the first one to admit, Ryan called my ass out on Instagram yesterday. Granted,
Was that just yesterday?
it
That was like
yeah, I think he did it twice.
That was after game 4, dude.
He was a little,
That was after game 1, I think.
he was a little too high up on everything.
Did you just see it yesterday?
No, I saw both of them. So I
that was a new one
as
yesterday.
is known, I was on the Warriors. I thought even with the lack of depth and the lack of perimeter shooting behind their top guys, I thought they were still going to be able to get it done. And I'll admit to the world that I was wrong.
There's nothing wrong with that.
I ain't afraid to admit it. I thought that they'd be able to do it, and I think that if Clay didn't go down yesterday, they still might have had a chance to do it. It's just sometimes that's how the cookie crumbles, and ain't nothing you can do about it. Which is something that we're going to get into here soon. But I wanted to ask the question: after this championship, does Kawhi Leonard have a seat at the table,
Which table?
the GOAT table,
This table, he can sit at this table
for
anytime
this
soon.
generation?
Anytime he
We'll
wants.
get him another chair.
Not to argue. I mean,
I'll
Kawhi.
give him my
Yeah,
chair.
you can have my chair.
You can get out of. I'll
I'll
get out of my
stand.
seat and everything. Yeah, I'll get off camera. I don't give a fuck.
This generation, so not to argue generations, to get into the whole LeBron Jordan argument. Okay, does he have a seat at this generation's GOAT table?
I think the torch is being passed to him from LeBron. So I think that is very likely for him to have a seat at the table. If he keeps it going, whether he brings another one to Toronto or he goes to another franchise, I think it says more if he can go to another franchise and bring a championship there. But this could be a handing off of the torch type of moment for him. He's still young enough to do it. This is still the league still is LeBron's. So it's someone's for a taking. We know he's entering his twilight years. He's still got a lot in him, but is it going to be Kawhi?
I think it has to be. I don't think he's past LeBron yet. I don't think the body of work just isn't there. But I think he's closer than a lot of people might think.
So who else is at this table that you're speaking of?
LeBron James.
Okay, so
He's the only one sitting there.
so
he's there by
this
himself on his
generation.
king throne.
What are we talking about year wise? What generational? 'Cause
I'd say 2000 and okay, I guess you could add a couple to it. Let's say 2000 to now.
Why don't you just say what about from Vince Carter's rookie year to now? Because he's
So
still
90
one way,
is
he's
that
still in the league.
96?
Okay.
we
Well,
go.
yeah, I'm taking Kobe. Kobe's sitting at the head of the table for sure.
Ooh.
Well, then LeBron's.
So you got LeBron
Right
sitting-
next to him.
Okay, so if we're going from now, we'll go from Kobe's year. So we'll say 96 to now. So we're gonna put Kobe at the table, LeBron at the table. I think you got to put KG at the table.
Wait a minute. What's going on here?
Kevin Garnett.
You're throwing shade, disrespect.
Over Tim Duncan.
No, I'm putting Tim Duncan at the
Oh,
table.
but you said
How many
KG
guys- how
before
many
Tim
seats are at this
Duncan. I was
table?
like,
I mean, if we're talking generational goats, and we're gonna
How many
include
seats are
everybody,
at this table?
As many as there needs to be.
Tim, yeah.
Shaq Daddy?
Yeah, Shaq. I think there's got to be as many seats as there needs to be if you want to make the generational argument.
So is Kawhi better than any of those guys generationally today than we named? And I don't think so. So no to answer your question.
I'm actually going to say yes.
As of today. No.
Yeah, today.
As of today, I think yes. No. I think, and this isn't. I'm not trying to throw
If
shade.
this table seats 5 from '96 to now, Kawhi Leonard does not have a seat at this table.
Kawhi has,
I think you're wrong.
Kawhi has first dibs at the kiddie table.
Yeah, Kawhi.
I think both of you are wrong.
That means he's almost at his pubescent years.
We're like
he's about to get there.
Yeah, but I mean, so do you put Kawhi over Steph Curry today? Wait, I don't want to ask you that question because I know the answer. Dan. Sorry.
I think
I knew it was coming.
Yeah, no,
I honestly, it's tough, and this is why I know you, and I'm not disagreeing with your points at all. Saying
because
that he's
Steph's
at the table
right in
either.
this discussion too. But you're not putting him over these guys from
But see,
'96 yet.
I'm saying that I would put Kawhi over some of the guys from '96, and this is why. He's the body of work longevity wise isn't there yet, right? The reason that a lot of people consider LeBron the greatest.
He's
and
the
this is
closest
including-
that anybody's gotten, like on the back end of this.
for what?
Putting together a body of work. We always talk about the guys coming up and how good they are and how good they're going to be, but we always come back to needing a body of work. Kawhi has that,
No, and that's what I'm saying.
and he's like it's
longevity-wise.
like a solid
Yeah,
body
he
of work.
covers every base. that you
Exactly.
ask for.
Can he do this for another 7 or 8 years?
And is he
LeBron's
gonna
already
win
proven that he's
is he
done it.
going to win another ring elsewhere? If he wins a ring elsewhere, a third ring,
I
the
think
first
that
one to do that,
solidifies it.
then you have to bring him into this.
But that's why I
the
think
discussion.
he's already at the table because that body of work is so tremendous for what he's done. He's ended. I know the joke is 3, dynasties, but he legitimately ended 2. He beat the Miami Heat, who should have never lost the finals, in my opinion, and he beat the Golden State Warriors now, who were an amazing dynasty in their own right. Okay, so he's got those 2 things: Defensive Player of the Year twice, 2-time Final MVP, All-Star for how many years? He averaged. We said before we started this that he scored more points in this finals or this NBA playoffs than any other player in history next to Jordan.
He was third behind Jordan and LeBron.
Was it LeBron still had? Did LeBron have one that was higher?
I thought LeBron.
Regardless
was 2,
if he
yeah.
does or doesn't.
He was in the top 3 for sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
because of that series where he was the only one playing.
Yeah, exactly. So so he's got that stat there. Just the sheer fact that he's never been a part of a dynasty per se. I mean, granted, you could consider the Spurs there, but Tony Parker was old, Ginobili was old, Tim Duncan was
Yeah,
old.
but that year
that's
he
the thing.
won.
He was only 21 years old when they won that year. So
Yeah.
And he was up and coming.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
he
and
was
when
like,
he won the Finals MVP,
But he won the
Tony
finals
Parker
for
was
them.
actually the scoring leader.
But everything that Kawhi did.
Yeah,
Did
exactly.
Kawhi win MVP at 21 years old?
Yeah,
in
he
the
did.
finals?
Youngest ever do it.
He was. I feel like he got a lot. He got a lot of opportunities to shot create in that finals. But
That's where he showed out. That's where everybody.
yeah,
that's what.
that's
Kawhi
when he
Leonard
finally
was
showed
at.
up. But I mean, like you. There's a lot of help around him there.
There was. And
Everybody had to stay home, man.
Well, and that's where some of the criticisms were. Oh, he's just a system player. Kevin Durant said that, like, oh, you're just a system player, and then obviously he's proved that wrong with this season.
Just to oppose Dan's side here, because that creates conversation. Against Kawhi in this situation that we're talking about at the table, the Warriors championship this year has to have a little asterisk against it as well.
And I think we were all going to get to that.
Towards Kawhi.
Does the asterisk? Do we include it? And I think you have to.
He's not at the table?
Huh?
This man's not at the table? Wasn't even mentioned.
Yeah, that's
He
what I'm
is.
saying. How
He is.
does he come over Kevin Durant? How does Kawhi at
'Cause
Kawhi
K-
at the table and KD's not at the table?
Well, no, I think KD's at the table, but if you put KD at the table, I think you have to put Kawhi at the table.
Yeah, I think they're in they're in an arms race now for the next 8-year window, like who it's going to be.
I think you were right. If the Achilles injury doesn't happen,
Yeah,
I think
I know,
after
and
that now,
that's obviously
I
where
think that's kind of done. But if you put KD at the table, which he deserves it by all means, then you have to add Kawhi. They have the same number.
No,
of
I
rings.
don't think that even KD is sitting at this table, bro.
For the generational, like the greatest person of this generation, really?
Yeah, he had to leave and go play with the Warriors to win a ring.
I think that doesn't take away the player he
He's
is.
still very dominant, but at the same time, these guys all won rings in the place where they were.
Yeah,
except for
not
except for
KG.
LeBron.
Not
except
KG.
for LeBron, but
I think when we talk about these generational players, there's also
Tim Duncan, Shaq,
Tim Duncan.
Shaq, Kobe,
There's a lot of mystique behind each one. Like
Dwayne,
Shaq was
Dwayne Wade.
Shaq was just
Come on.
so dominant. Kobe was just lethal, right? Ice in his veins, like
Yep.
like an assassin. And LeBron's just an athletic freak who's just been dominant since he got in. Curry's the greatest shooter of all time. There's like no argument with that.
Nope.
KD's one of the greatest offensive players you've ever seen. I mean, he's a 7-foot shooting guard. It's insane. Kawhi has a body of work, and what's Kawhi? So I think that's when people like to talk about their greatest, it evokes emotion and like mystique and personality. And obviously Kawhi lacks some of that. And even that's why Tim Duncan gets forgotten upon because Tim Duncan missed the big fundamental.
But he's sitting here at this table.
But he is sitting, but he's
got to be.
But look at his full-on career, right? The Twin Towers with David Robinson and then building all of that. So, but also he was just a solid guy. But there's also reasons why when people talk about the greatest, he's not the first one to come up. But we bring him up because we look at his body of work and he was solid through his whole career. It's almost mirroring like what Kawhi might end up being. He puts up a solid carear, plays
Super
both
technically
ends,
sound.
and despite not having much mystique, let's call it, might end up at the conversation just because he might end up with such a body of work that you can't deny it. Just like what happened with Timmy.
And that's why I think the table is large. And when you really look at the table, if you were to write down everybody's name, how many of those guys that you would put at this table, and it's funny you wrote that because I was literally getting to that, is how many of these guys that are at this figurative table for the GOAT of this generation from 1996 on, let's call it pre-Jordan, okay, won a championship.
Post-Jordan.
Oh, did I say pre?
Yeah.
My fault. Post-Jordan. How many of those guys won a championship with their original team without having to go win a championship in creating a team? I won't even call it a super team. KG, they had to make the Celtics.
Shaq needed to be traded.
Shaq needed to go to the Lakers.
You got Kobe. LeBron had to leave.
LeBron had to go. Kobe's an interesting one because they brought on Shaq, so he was with the Lakers. Does Kobe win one ever if Shaq doesn't come? I think he still does. I think he was good enough to do it.
I mean, he
second after that was Powell.
He did that.
Yeah.
Powell, you can always argue he had Powell, but
Powell's
at the same time,
Shaq.
Yeah,
By any means.
so he did it.
One of the few players, there's 2 players on there, and it's funny because our producer just wrote it on the board.
Yeah, but Shaq went to Miami afterwards and won one.
That was not the same Shaq, though, because that's where I was going. I was going Dwayne Wade.
But exactly the point, but he did that. He's proven that he can go places and win rings like Kawhi did.
Oh, okay. I see where you're going with that.
Yeah.
Then I agree. Then that's why I put Shaq is, if I had to say the head of the table and then the number 2, it's LeBron, Shaq, in my opinion.
Over Kobe?
Yes, I think Kobe's 3. I think I put Shaq above Kobe, and I know if you're a Laker fan, some guys might not like that. I just think
I think they both.
Shaq got 4
get tier 2 invites. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Shaq
right
Shaq
here.
had 4, Kobe had 5. I don't think Kobe wins any rings if Shaq's not there with the Lakers because Shaq was that dominant in those 3.
He did it twice.
Yeah.
Dan, he did it twice.
Did what twice?
He won rings without Shaq twice.
Yeah, he had a 3-peat and then a back.
No, I know. I'm talking about the first 3.
Oh.
I'm saying those early years of Kobe, I don't think he wins without Shaq is what I meant. I'm sorry.
That's good. You're good. It's
Like I said, I think Kobe actually wins if Shaq never comes to Lakers. I just don't think those 3 years.
So you don't
he
think
does it.
if Shaq goes down in the last game of the Western Conference Finals that Kobe doesn't outduel Allen Iverson by himself? Or Kobe doesn't outduel Jason Kidd by himself? Or Kobe doesn't outduel Reggie Miller by himself?
He might outduel that single player by themselves. I don't know if they beat that team by himself.
Those teams are deep, man.
I mean,
I would take Kobe by himself in all 3 of those series.
I don't know if I would. But but
He's
that's why it's
far
fun
and
to talk
above
about.
the best player on the court outside of Shaquille O'Neal.
Yeah,
Not even
but
close.
Shaq who was the best player on the court in those NBA finals? Who won the Lakers those NBA finals? Was it
Shaq.
Kobe or was it Shaq?
I mean,
Shaq, what do you average? 35 a game?
They won it together.
I mean, a fair point to not cause controversy, but I think the answer is Shaq.
Kobe would have dropped 35 in those if Shaq wasn't out there, dude. Shaq has 3 MVPs. But all I'm saying is that if Shaq wasn't out there, Kobe could have won those series.
And I'm just
And then
my
Kobe
counterpoint is I think you're wrong. I don't think he would have. Yeah. Now, was it possible? 100%. I'm not taking away from Kobe's greatness at all. But I do think, like I said, back to the main point. I think Kawhi
series with Smush Parker, dude. Come on, bro.
Smush was the man.
Poor Smush. Why is it always him that gets pointed out?
I got him. I know it's always Smush. They always hate on Smush.
Smush was the man.
He wins it, though, too.
Thanks for liking that Infinity Stoners post, Smush Parker.
Okay, so that brings us into now
Jesus.
free agency.
It's a mess.
We were looking forward to free agency for so long, and I think these injuries have ruined it.
They totally shifted them, right?
KD was going to the Knicks.
Yeah, his injury, especially when his Achilles snapped, it changed how people felt. Ultimately, just changed where they could go because now it's like he's got to rehab for a year,
So he has to take that 1 year,
right? And
the player
even
option.
though the Knicks still say they'll offer a max, and I'm sure teams would.
I don't think he should leave.
No, and now Warriors can offer him more, and in a time where you're trying to heal and you're uncertain, wouldn't you want to have a little bit of comfort and just kind of there's that stay home comfort? I know who I am.
I have a question that I don't know if anybody knows. If a guy is at the point in his contract where he is on a player option,
Yep, 1-on-1.
and so he has a player option to sign for next year, but he wins all first team NBA, can they preemptively extend him to the Supermax now? They can. So maybe that happens.
Yeah.
Maybe that happens and he stays. Clay's going to re-sign as well.
Here's
Yeah.
my hot take.
Can't opt in, though.
What do you mean?
They would have to do the deal before.
Yeah, it'd be 5 years from today.
Yeah.
Okay.
You guys, here's I know maybe you guys will consider a hot take or not. I don't know. I think people out in the audience would consider this a hot take. I think that KD going down, Clay going down, was the best thing to happen to the Warriors.
For long term, sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some positive light to it, right? Like they lost, and KD's all of a sudden becoming more liked. How is that possible? And,
right.
I think people just feel for the Warriors, especially when a guy like Clay goes down, a guy who gives you 100% effort, never misses a game. He comes back out on an ACL tear, as we found out, and sinks 2 free throws. It's like that Kobe moment where he had a busted Achilles heel and came out and still shot his free throws. So he had a ton of respect going in, and he has even more. And so it's weird. You're seeing sympathy to the Warriors, and now...
And everybody's hated them for the last 4 years.
Yeah, so do the Warriors go full-on Spurs when they were really good, and then they had like a bunch of injuries? They ended up with a first-round pick, and that's how they got Tim Duncan and paired him with David Robinson. So now the formula's changed with the NBA lottery, so it's not so easy for you to tank. And then we saw how the draft picks ended up this year, right? With the Knicks and Lakers ending down there. Sorry about that.
3 years in a row with the 7th pick.
It was a horrible season for them too, and they still got
The only qualm I have about the draft lottery is that the Lakers got hosed by not getting the 3rd pick instead of the 4th pick.
Oh yeah,
Oh
they got the
yeah, that was the problem.
That's the biggest
The
problem.
Bulls have lost 75% of their games over the last 3 years. We haven't had a pick higher than 7th.
Yeah, that was you, and the Suns got screwed.
Yeah.
And Memphis as well. But
Ridiculous.
so obviously tanking doesn't work as well. But what do they do this year? They don't have much flexibility to fill the roster to make up the injuries. It's not like there's that many minimum vet good offers out there. So they obviously have a depth problem. How do they fix that? Andre is probably going to be Sean Livingston's last year. I think he should retire.
They can't bring him back.
This is going to be Iggy's last year on his contract, I think.
That's a guy that could re-sign.
Yeah, so he could re-sign on a short deal, but so Bob Myers has his work cut out for him, the GM for the Warriors, in terms of what do you do this year? Do you just kind of tank it, let the younger players develop? See if you can get Jordan Bell back to developing in a positive route.
Yo, he needs to no, fuck that. He needs to step the fuck up.
Yeah,
he needs to step the fuck up.
And it's mostly
this is his year, man. This coming year is going to be.
Yeah, he's got to improve on defense.
Yo,
not pump fake for everything, you know. So
I will say that the biggest winner of the night last night was Patrick McCaw, who is now a three-time
first 3 years UNLV running Rebels. That's right.
Big time for McCaw. Who would have seen it coming?
Yeah.
But
he gave us some money. He got a ring. That ring's probably worth the difference that he lost. With the Warriors.
Probably.
Whatever they're going to put in that.
But yeah, man, I think you're going to see the Warriors. I honestly, I don't even think you might see them make the playoffs next year.
I was going to ask that question. Does Steph carry an empty roster all the way? I don't even know that he
I
could.
actually almost feel like Steph shouldn't have to, but whether he can or can't, I don't know. It's like almost Steph should take the year off too, because it's like not even worth him to play in it.
Sit them all down.
Just let him
like
sit the entire
reinforce
year.
his ankles.
Yeah,
fix
let
those
him
fingers. Whatever
heal
happened
up.
with those fingers.
Because I think now that all this has happened, I think KD's coming back like we said. I think Clay's coming back like we said, and it's going to give the Warriors time to develop more players, money. Because I don't think that the guy. I know they talked about max contracts. I don't think you can give them max contracts anymore. Maybe KD, but not Clay.
No, Clay's getting a super max.
You think
Well,
he's
he's
gonna,
not-
well, he
he-
can't get the super max because he wasn't.
Oh,
all
he didn't
pro.
make it. Well, he'll get the max though.
He'll get the 4-year.
And then even if they do, though, they're going to be able to retool the squad with a lot of the guys that are going to leave over the next year.
Yeah.
And I think that they're going to be formidable again when everybody's healthy. But betting tip. I sent this to Chris earlier today. William Hill just released their odds for next year's NBA championship. I'm telling you right now, the bet of the day, 10-1 odds, the Lakers. And you guys, as anybody that watches the show knows, I'm not a Lakers fan.
You hate
It's the
them.
Lakers. It's 10-1. Take them.
It's already gone down. It's
Is it already really?
4-1.
People
Oh,
are
God.
hammering
That
it.
was the opening.
Well,
Well, yeah, and the Lakers are also minus 500 to land Anthony Davis as well. So
Still don't think they should do that, but
not for the pieces. They should just wait 9 months.
Yeah.
But
They shouldn't do it because of the trade assets. What do
they
you mean?
should. I think it's even more because we've talked about this actually a lot for the past, I'd say, like 2 weeks. We talked about AD going to the Lakers. So, like I was saying, and this goes to what you were just saying, is I think even more so now with the Warriors going to be depleted next year, they should not sign don't trade away all your young players for KD. I think just on LeBron's back alone, this is not even them adding a free agent yet, and I think they're going to. I think they're going to get a Jimmy Butler or maybe a Kawhi Leonard,
Kemba?
maybe a Kemba. Who knows?
I've heard that's heating up. But then you
maybe
run
a
into
Kyrie.
You run into Kyrie. You run
Yeah.
into positional problems with Kemba. It's a little bit different than Kyrie, but
But-
either one of those guys could still come.
Yeah.
They're gonna get a free agent. Don't trade away your assets. With the Warriors having a down year, the next best team is the Rockets, and Chris Paul's old. He might not even be there next year.
They could beat the Rockets.
LeBron could beat the Rockets by himself, practically. I mean that facetiously, but you know what I mean. With this squad with LeBron
you
leading
mean,
it, he can do
you
it.
mean that he can beat them with Kuzma, Ingram,
Yes,
Lonzo?
I think so.
yeah.
I think that Ingram takes a step forward. I think Kuzma takes a step forward. I think Ball takes a step forward. If they can stay healthy and these guys progress in their development,
Lonzo might be an all-star.
okay. If he progresses enough and he fixes his shot a little bit, if he shoots a better clip this year, I think you're right. I think he
How
could.
much better of a clip does he need to shoot?
I think he needs to shoot at least 35% from three, and he needs to shoot better. Needs to make more of his free throws. He needs to shoot about 70% from.
That's the one thing that you
It's
can't
the line.
you can't draw up an argument to salvage his free throw shooting. It's atrocious.
It is
Yeah.
bad,
Scoot back, do the Siakam method.
but
He shoots it from 17 feet.
I know.
Fuck it.
But AD is going to be a free agent after this year. And where does he want to go? He wants to go to the Lakers. So wait the year out. I think the Lakers have a legitimate chance to win the NBA championship next year if the Warriors are depleted, which they're going to be. Now we know.
Yeah.
And then sign AD that next year.
So if it's not a player option, can Anthony Davis do a supermax extension now
With the Pelicans.
and then get traded? Sign and trade? All right, so like because
This upcoming season?
right, 'cause
If he were
Durant-
to be all NBA this upcoming season?
no, right now. Durant, all right, for example, Durant is on the end of his 3-year deal with a player option for next year. He can actually get the supermax extension.
No, he can't. He's
Okay,
been
so-
signing. He's been signing one-on-ones.
You have to complete a 4-year contract.
Yeah, and he's been on one-on-ones.
So there's
since
no way.
coming.
There's no way to extend early because Anthony Davis is only on a 4-year. So it has to be after the 4th year,
He could get extended with the Pelicans right now.
but not get the supermax.
He wasn't all NBA. Was he?
I was assuming he was.
We
They
need
sat
to,
him-
we need to tweet Larry Kuhn right now. The,
They sat him at the end.
contract
so
expert.
probably not. But I do think that there's probably a pretty good chance that within the next week or so that we're going to see a sign and trade with Anthony Davis
probably
to
right.
the
Yeah,
Lakers.
right before the draft. I
Yeah,
think so.
probably
It
I
has
think
to
it's a
be.
bad move.
Probably right now.
Why not?
I think it's going to happen. I don't want it to happen, but I think that's going to happen.
Who's got the second pick? Is it Memphis?
No, they're taking John Morant.
I know
Case
they
closed.
are. So why not trade the old 4th-round pick for the Lakers and maybe like a Kuzma and go get John Morant?
No NBA.
Okay.
Anthony Davis did not.
What does it cost the Lakers to trade the 4th round pick to get the 2nd round pick? Or the second pick
Memphis
overall?
is already printing Ja Morant jerseys, man. It's not happening.
Hey,
It's not happening.
There's
It's not
always,
happening.
there's always a price.
No, man. They had Mike Conley for the whole 10 years. They're printing Ja Morant jerseys, man.
There's always a price in my mind.
They are printing Ja Morant jerseys, shirts, hats, all that shit.
Then get the number 1 pick from the Pelicans.
No.
And undercut him for Ja Morant, and Zion goes number 2. Shake up the whole NBA world.
Oh,
I
come on.
think that you're too high
Fantasy
on Ja
land.
Morant, man.
I think I'm speaking strictly from the Lakers' point of view. I think the Lakers would be better served picking Ja Morant over Zion.
I think
Is what
they'd
I'm
be
saying.
better with R.J. Barrett than Ja Morant.
Okay, I mean that's perimeter shooting, so and a big body under the basket, so I'll give you that. But
R.J.'s a point guard. 1-2. You look confused.
I am confused.
He's bigger than you.
He and Lonzo can coexist beautifully. But that's not going to happen. He'll be a Knick, so we don't need to talk about that anymore. Speaking of Zion, he's suing a Florida marketing company. He signed a contract and I guess is not happy with some of the language in there. He was supposed to not be able to get out of it. Do you have the info on this?
I guess that makes sense. I was looking at RJ Barrett more of as a forward because he's 6'7",
no,
and he played 3 mostly when he was at Duke.
Only because of the guys they had there.
But I get what you're saying, so I agree. I was wrong.
Okay.
Essentially, I was right, but I was wrong.
I know.
I get what you're saying.
I know you were. Sorry.
He could play 3 if he went to the Lakers.
Sure, but he's a 1-2. 2 1
more of a
1
2.
1 2 1 1 1 2.
I wouldn't put him at 1.
Either way. The Lakers need him.
I think Ja Morant does more.
I mean, is he better than Trae Young?
Shit, you asked me that at the beginning of last year. I said yes, but after Trae Young's second half of that season, I don't know.
Yeah,
So-
he came through.
So perspective, okay? Like, it's just Ja Morant, bro.
Dude was a baller, man.
Yeah, he's good. He's great. He's going to help Memphis a lot.
Think you'd help the Lakers even more.
Wrong.
All right, so we'll go back to what you're saying with Zion.
Zion is suing a Florida marketing company. What's the language on that, Dan? I don't know too much.
So I looked this up earlier as we
Yeah.
were talking about Zion suing his agency company, I guess, saying that because he wanted to. So he signed it in early May, and then he backed out of it the end of May, and now the company was trying to sue him for $10 million in damages, and now he's lawyered up and he's suing.
100 million in damages.
Oh yeah, you're right. It was 100 million in damages, and now he's lawyered up, and there's a whole bunch of legal mumbo jumbo going on in North Carolina.
But we think that he might get out of it because this is not sponsored by this marketing company
Yes,
is not
so-
sponsored by the NBA.
So the one
PA?
thing that we've seen is that this marketing company, this agency, is not sponsored by the NBAPA, the Players Association, so they're a union. And when it comes to players' unions, they are usually fairly strong and they get things done. So I can't see him having to stay with this agency or having to pay any money.
Yeah, probably.
Because weren't they saying that opens the door then for him to sign with Rock Nation?
So I looked that up too as you were saying it. What it looked like, I wasn't able to find anything saying that if he doesn't sign with, or if they let this go and nobody settles on anything and it just becomes wishy-washy. It was originally he was looking to sign with Rock Nation. So I think it's very possible that if this goes away, then he could sign with Rock Nation.
Who else just signed with Rock Nation?
I don't
Kyrie?
know. Who's that?
Kyrie did.
Kyrie.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean,
Which just answers the
which
question.
helps.
No, he is not going to Brooklyn. That would be tampering. I'm just kidding. Jay-Z's out, but still, I believe that would be tampering.
I like the Brooklyn destination for any free agent. Plugging that in.
Yeah, just not Kyrie. Bring him to the Lakers. They're the Brooklyn team that they've got a lot of pieces, man.
Yeah, they have
They do.
flexibility.
And that's why it's interesting.
They
I
got
mean-
trade assets. They got a little space.
Yeah, I
D'Angelo
mean, that's
Russell
why I think-
separated himself this year finally.
Finally,
Yeah,
He
I
needed
was
to change
talking
his-
about that before Durant got injured when we discuss it, because everyone's like, "Oh, where do you think he's going to go?" I was like, "Well, if he wants to leave and go somewhere, I think he should go Nets over the Knicks." Knicks also don't deserve it. I mean, they have a shitty owner as well, and they're poorly run. They're just the Knicks, so why did they don't deserve a player like that?
Yeah, I've never been a huge Knicks
I mean,
guy.
we saw what they did with Carmelo. We saw what they did with Porzingis. Like,
Yeah, I
it's-
mean, they're still poorly run.
With the talent they've brought into New York, how have they not won a championship in the last 25 years? with the dudes that they've had. Those years with Carmelo and Stoudemire.
Jason Kidd.
And they had
that
Kidd.
was a big difference. He brought in like the championship leadership. Carmelo always needed that. He had Chauncey Billups in Denver to get him there, and he had Jason Kidd and get him there in the playoffs.
So I don't know. I've never been a Knicks fan because of it. So I mean, I wouldn't be mad if Kyrie went to Brooklyn. Like you said earlier, I don't think he's going to. I think it's all just smoke. But
Well, he's from that area, so that's more why the house that he just bought over there is everyone's freaking out about it. But he's from there, so it doesn't
I'd be
make-
surprised.
it's not abnormal for
I'll
you
be-
to buy
I'll
a
be
house
shocked.
where
Yeah.
you're from, even if that's not where you're going to
And
live.
we've
next
seen
year.
that before. People buy a house in like
all
doesn't
over the
mean
place.
anything.
Yeah, doesn't mean anything.
So we're
And now
running.
look, that house Kevin Durant, did he actually buy a house in New York, or was he just looking?
I thought he was just looking, but it goes back to. But I guess it did matter when LeBron bought a house in LA.
That's
so.
true. But I feel like that was going on for. You had the Space Jam rumors. You had
Yeah.
he was looking for schools for his kids rumors. So there was a lot more than just the house.
Wasn't Clay agreed to sign on to Space Jam 2?
He is. He's in it.
so he was like the first player I've heard that signed on. Do we know who else is going to be in Space Jam 2?
I do not know.
I don't
anybody
know,
else.
but I know Clay
I knew
was.
Clay was the only one, but now
I heard,
wonder if that
I heard
changes.
rumblings of Lonzo,
Oh.
but that was a while ago too. So I don't know if there's any
I hope
smoke
not.
fire.
he
there.
would
This
make a
isn't
good
a hater.
monster. He's got kind of the
The
he's
gangliness?
body,
Yeah,
the gangly
that was the word
look
I was
for
going to
it,
use
so.
too.
You want to hit that next
Yeah,
one?
so
Run a
with
little bit low.
real quick, while we're kind of in that Lakers realm, I did see today that they're honing in on Jimmy Butler. So all that other stuff we were talking is all hypothetical, really, because it's probably the last guy I want, but
I think
probably the one guy that
I
we're
thought
going to
it
get.
said Philly was going to offer him the max, and there was rumors of him going to stay.
Stay.
You don't want Jimmy Butler?
I'd much rather have any of those other guys over
I've
Jimmy
talked-
Butler.
I refuse. So this year I was in my annual NBA fantasy league, and this year we switched it to lottery or bidding instead of snake. And the year before I made an accident, I thought I was selecting Giannis, and I accidentally selected Jimmy Butler.
Ouch.
And he had a terrible season. So I hate Jimmy Butler for fantasy. So this year I had to give a sheet of like the ranges I'm willing to pay for each player, and I definitely he was like at the bottom of the list. Like he was,
$0.
yes, I think I had anyone else like Fred VanVleet higher, Patrick McCaw before. I was like, I do not want Jimmy Butler
I
on
have
my team.
$3.
Please give me Patrick McCaw over Jimmy Butler.
Yeah. So NBA fantasy world, we're on the same.
And see, and as everybody knows, I've hated Jimmy since he was with the Bulls. I was a fan of him early
You
on.
don't say.
And what have I called him?
Cancer.
I think he's a cancer.
So is DeMarcus Cousins.
I will say this though, and I totally understand if you guys being Lakers fans, don't want Jimmy. I think the one place he wouldn't be a cancer is LA, because LeBron will not deal with Jimmy Butler's shit. So I think
it's
that's
like
the one place it
It's
works.
the one place where he can go where he doesn't have like I'm better than everybody in the room complex.
What's the one thing that it seems like every team Jimmy Butler goes to, it's always the same thing that comes out of the locker room. Nobody works as hard as me. Nobody does as much as me. You guys need to get better. You need to be doing this and doing that to be on Jimmy Butler's level. Is he going to say that shit to LeBron?
Yeah, but was he that way in Philly? It wasn't that
I
bad.
mean, we
It
don't.
came out a little bit
It
that
came
there
out a
were
little
problems.
bit, but at the same time, they also needed Jimmy to get
Oh,
as
God,
deep
yeah,
as
they
they
did.
did.
Jimmy's a great player.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I just think he's a cancer because I think he causes a lot of locker room
Oh
problems.
yeah, well, definitely what he did in Minnesota was inexcusable.
And he did the same thing in Chicago, too.
You ever check out his Instagram feed?
No.
Oh, it's hilarious.
Jimmy Butler.
Jimmy's
Yeah.
got a. God, I liked Jimmy so much too when he was with the Bulls when he was young and he was that up and coming star and it was like
He's
this
like a
guy's
blue
good.
collar type of guy.
Yeah, and
player.
then it just changed so quickly, man.
Got a
Sucks.
little taste of the superstardom, man.
I
Yeah.
heard it all goes back to a conversation he had with Mark Wahlberg, and Mark Wahlberg just really like got in his head and hyped him up, like, dude, you should be a star, all this, and since then, it's become the Jimmy Butler show. That's what I read though.
Jimmy
I don't
Butler
know.
is Mark Wahlberg's daughter's basketball coach.
That's
So,
true. Oh yeah,
yeah.
I did see that video.
But yeah, I remember I read an article about that. Like it's all because of Mark Wahlberg.
oh,
of all
God,
things.
and I love Mark Wahlberg. I hope that's not true. But
Who was Mark
Total-
Wahlberg? Who was Mark Wahlberg going to fight?
McGregor.
Yeah, I want to see that
that'd
fight.
be awesome.
Please,
But-
God.
Side note, complete tangent, not sports related. Four Brothers is supposed to be getting a sequel. I guess they'd have to call it Three Brothers, but
R.I.P. Jack. Is it Ricky or Jack?
thought it was Jack.
Yeah.
How the fuck did we go from Boys in the Hood?
For the
Completely different fucking movies.
For the last topic, I wanted to mention this because of the relevancy. The Raptors GM. Masai Ujiri was expected to be offered about $10 million annually to run the Wizards.
6-year deal, I thought.
Yeah,
60 million.
Yeah,
right?
that's pretty serious. Now he's also been I guess is being accused of minor misdemeanor battery last night.
Hit a police officer,
Two
security
two
guard.
two
Wow,
separate
really?
times hit a police officer, security guard
Last night,
because
while
he,
celebrating.
because he refused to let him on the court to celebrate the championship with the rest of the team.
Even though reports are saying that he did have a press badge, is what at least what I read that you gave me.
Well,
So-
how would he not get down there though? if
Because
he's
they
the
said he
chief?
didn't have a press badge, is what the report was saying. But it's also saying that he actually had it in his hand. So
So it's
They
just
don't recognize him.
that's
Isn't that like an obvious? Like if it's the Warriors and it's Bob Myers, he does have a badge.
that's the whole thing.
Yeah,
It's- I'm sure more will come out of this.
yeah. So it's hot right now. I hope it doesn't affect anything going forward. But you know the way the media is now, like this
Yeah.
thing could spiral, and he might not. You know,
That's the
Too
first I'm
hot
hearing
to
about
touch.
it.
But all right, so we got a couple minutes left. Moving on to everybody's favorite segment, today's biggest piece of shit. And if you guys paid attention to last week's episode, you would know that everybody in the universe was a very good person last week.
they were angelic last week.
Yes, exactly. But as usual, the universe works itself out. So today we have two biggest pieces of shit today. And both of them are legit pieces of shit. Like, these aren't even a joke. So please, Ramon, bring it home.
We got Kellen Winslow Jr. and the guy that shot Big Poppy, or as it's written on the board, Big Poppy Shooter.
So,
Yeah.
for real, let's go with the worst of the two. I mean, they're both bad in their equal rights, but
Horrible.
And as you mentioned, so you had no pieces of shit last week.
no, we had nobody.
And we got two, so we're balanced, right?
Yes, we're back
So,
to even.
As Thanos said in Avengers, perfectly balanced as all things should be.
Indeed. God, that's beautiful. We should just end that shit there. Good God. But
Perfect. We don't want to talk about them.
yeah, you know what?
We don't want to give them any pub. Fuck them.
Exactly.
yeah,
Fuck Kellen
yeah.
Winslow Jr. and fuck the guy that shot Big Poppy.
We're out.
Thank you guys for watching. Ramon, thank you for coming on, my friend.
We appreciate it.
This
brother.
was
Great time
awesome.
talking
Yeah,
NBA
thank
with
you.
you.
Thanks,
We'll
man.
definitely bring you back.
It was
probably during free
therapeutic. I
agency.
needed it after the disappointment.
It's a lot of fun, right?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And just quick shout out, Rosa, I love you. Luna, and our little baby boy on the way. Love you both.
Congratulations, by the way.
Congrats,
Thank you.
indeed. Make sure you guys like, follow, subscribe, send some messages to Chris because he loves you more than I do. And we'll see you guys next week.
Hey, with a whole mid to spare.
Good shit.